Car and truck buyers are begging and screaming for mercy during this cost of living crisis. People can't pay their bills. They're spending too much on cars and trucks these days. No break in sight. Unemployment's up. People can't afford to eat, and repossessions that are an all-time high. And when people stop caring about the car that they're driving because it's getting repossessed, that's a clear indication. So here we're talking about repossession right here. You can literally tell it was not looked after. I mean, parts like this falling off. You look around, all kinds of damage all over the place. Look at this. Even this, they didn't even care. Smashed it into the wall. There's dents all over the place. And those are clear indications. Even though this is a repossession, that's not uncommon. The interior is usually beat to the street and people just stop caring because they know the bank's coming for their car. There's another repossession, also not really taken too much care of, as you can see right there. And yet there's another repossession right here. They couldn't make the payments and now it goes bye-bye. Here's one, negative equity, couldn't make the payments. The value is less than what they could sell it for today. Lose the shirt. And we look at all these vehicles piling up. We have all sorts of Jeep Grand Cherokees piling up all over the lot that they're not able to sell. And a lot of these are 2023s and 24s yet. Forget about the 25s. The 25s, yes, they can't even handle these allocations for the 25s because they still have all of these 2024s parked on the lot. And some more classic repossessions. You literally can't miss these. Here we actually have a brand new Ranger. This is a Ford Ranger. As you'll notice right here, how beat up this vehicle looks already. Yeah, they've been through some of the white lines on the highway, but even up here, we're missing parts and panels. This vehicle clearly was not looked after all that well. There's another classic repossession, classic story. Jacked up pickup truck, big lift on it, big boots like this. The oil patch job goes away, and so does the vehicle because they just can't make the payments. Right there's another one, another classic. Here we have a 4x4 Ram. Of course, you got the fancy decal on the back there. It's a Ram Hemi. And of course, the upgraded wheels. Here's another one that made it to the bank because the customer could not pay their bills. Car repossessions are up 23% from last year this time and up 14% from pre-2019. A clear indication it's trending in the wrong direction. What we're actually seeing are people that are poorly approved or barely approved for a new vehicle are struggling to get into that vehicle, but then they get in it and they can barely make the payments. We're seeing subprime buyers up around that 8%, 7 to 8%, and we're seeing even prime buyers losing their vehicles at an alarming rate of around 2 to 3%. Far too many people are losing their vehicles. I mean, look at all these brand new Rams piled up here along this aisle and a whole nother pile of these right here, all half-ton trucks. And there's many, many more. As we look over there, there's tons more new trucks. Right here, let's take a quick look. Here's a 1500 SST, as we see right there, black. Of course, very basic, black handles. This one here has cloth seats in it. Very basic. It's a 25 model year, 1500 Tradesman Sport Crew 4x4 for $72,515. 73 grand for a Tradesman Sport Crew 4x4? That's what's part of the issue here. And this is not an exclusively Stellantis or Ram issue. I'm seeing GM and some of their base model trim pickup trucks with 4x4 and crew cab, and they're going for similar money. Same with Ford. And you're seeing very similar phenomenons where even their base trim trucks are still in Canadian dollars going for at least $70,000, $75,000. It feels like these prices keep creeping up. Now, nobody's forced to buy, but in some cases, people need to buy because they need a form of transportation to get to and from work. And not everybody is comfortable with a DIY and fixing their own used cars because it doesn't represent a peace of mind. So they're stuck going to buy a new vehicle at these extremely high new vehicle prices. And we know a lot of people are barely affording to eat these days. They're struggling, they're skipping meals. The kids are doing without the sporting events, and that is soul crushing to me and to you. I know nobody likes to see people do without, but it's getting to the point where people are getting thinner. I mean, call it the crash course diet, if you will, call it whatever you want, but people are not eating as well as they did even 5 or 6 years ago. People can't afford the vehicles like they did. And those few that are skimming through and buying those vehicles, some of them, as again, anywhere from 2-3% up to about almost 10% of the people borrowing money against the vehicle are losing it due to repossession because they can't make their payment, whether they've lost their job, whether it's just too much, and of course it's cost of living around them, rent, mortgage, food, all continues to go up, and they're stuck now in these high expensive payments. Right here, you think you can get into a smaller SUV. Some people say, okay, you don't need the full-size, mid-size. What about something small? Well, here's a very small. This is what we're seeing. Stellantis has this little Jeep Compass, as we'll notice right here. It's a very small little vehicle. You cycle around it, you do notice it's got some basic wheels on there. Wow, they're a bit of an upgrade, all-terrain. You get a little tow hook. Of course, you can tow a little weight with it, although I'm not sure how much you can actually tow with an 8-speed automatic transmission, of course, and a small engine like this. You're very limited with what you can actually tow. But how much is this? If you think, okay, I'll just get into something smaller. This is a 2024 Compass Trailhawk Elite 4x4, and it's going for $55,050. This cost of living crisis is chopping everybody down at the knees. So I got a viewer named Ricky who reached out to me and said, you know, I just want to share the story. Ricky apparently had this job. He was working full-time. He was at his job for 3.5 years. He went out and he decided to buy himself a brand new Jeep. He actually wanted to buy a Jeep. He didn't get a top trim. It was a very entry-level vehicle. But he started getting into the job. He had a Jeep. He was making payments, of course, barely making ends meet, and of course, making the payments, living life. And then, unfortunately, something changed. All of a sudden, the person that was renting his house to him said, you know what? We're renegotiating. We're actually having to charge you an additional $532 per month for your rent. There's just no choice because he was living in a big center down in Ontario, and everybody knows the cost of living down there is even worse than most other cities. So Ricky, sadly, had to make a choice: eat, sleep, or drive. So he's relegated to give up his payment, give up his vehicle, had to talk to the bank, tried to negotiate. He was able to kind of actually draw out a couple more months on loan forgiveness, but eventually had to just give it up. He had to say bye-bye to his Jeep, unfortunately, and Ricky is amongst many people out there struggling right now, just trying to make ends meet. Now, it's sad, unfortunately, a lot of people rely on their vehicles for business, for work. Maybe they run their own part-time business, maybe they're a contractor, and you know, these are the trucks that a lot of these people should be using. They're heavy-duty trucks. Sometimes they're diesels. They can haul a trailer and haul a lot of their tools and a lot of their equipment around. But sometimes they have to go with something more basic, like a tradesman. I mean, even a vehicle like this clearly is not a base model. We're dealing with a vehicle that does give you the turbo diesel Cummins. It's a 2500 HD. Sure, you get some great wheels on here. And look, you get the black two-tone paint, black and white. It's absolutely cool looking truck, 2500 Rebel Crew 4x4. But this is the problem. This is a nice to have. A tradesman's more of a need to have, but even the tradesmen are pricey. Forget about this. This one here is $108,000, as you can see right there, for a Rebel Crew Cab. Anyway, pardon the pun. Anyway, it's a mess, and that's the problem. A lot of people need the HD trucks, and they can't even afford that. Even if you go with the tradesman 2500, it's still $100,000. I've seen, as you go down the lot here, each one of these is 100K plus, and so basically you're dealing with probably $1.5 million vehicle or $2 million worth of HD trucks parked along here. They're not selling, and yet the discounts aren't that excessive. They'll tell you they give you a discount, you come in, and then all they do is knock $3,500 off. These vehicles are serious money. People are looking for a break. The cost of living crisis is eating people up. They can't afford to eat, they can't afford to sleep, and they certainly, definitely can't afford to buy a new vehicle like one of these. And the few people that have, sadly, almost 5 to 10% of them are losing their vehicles. Now, according to Cox Automotive, spending growth has been up and down since the end of June. Sometimes up, sometimes down. Generally, the confidence in buying just isn't there. Customers don't know if they have a job tomorrow. They don't know if their rent is going to go up. And they know that, particularly in Canada, when you have to renew your mortgage every 5 years, they don't know if rates are going to stay high, which they have. In most cases, if you bought your house about 3 or 4 years ago, chances are your mortgage rate was a lot higher. They've gone up since that. So people are trying to brace for the worst case condition and have the money on board before they go and invest in a pointless vehicle like a truck like this that might end up costing them a whole pile of money. And recent statistics shows that the unemployment rate is as high as 1.86 million people currently in the United States. So with that buyer confidence going away, it's no wonder when people aren't working. And what we're seeing is a mix of interest rates. APR below 3% just rose slightly this month. So we're clearly seeing a door opening for a lot of people looking to get a deal. And even though used car prices have been all over the map, the fact remains is late model used cars are very hard to come by. And you're paying a premium dollar, so people aren't getting a break there. They're having to go 10 years, 12, 15 years old to get a deal. Otherwise, they're stuck either paying maximum dollar for the late model vehicles or just buy brand new and get the warranty, but you're paying it at a premium. Now, the benefit of buying brand new is, of course, they're getting themselves the best interest rates. Of course, they get full warranty, because as soon as you buy a used vehicle, what you're finding is you're going to pay the maximum interest rate. Instead of maybe 7%, you might pay 11 or 12% as a used vehicle buyer. So in some cases, instead of buying this pickup truck here, some people are making a decision to buy a slightly used vehicle like this. Much more affordable, and that's just where people are at right now. Also, there's some choices. Instead of buying a brand new Jeep Grand Cherokee, some people who need an SUV are just deciding to buy a slightly older used vehicle. Even if the quality's not there,